It touches on my love for non-cliched, non-traditional goals in theater. I certainly appreciate the plays that can tug my heartstrings and make me cry. I'm an easy crier. So, there are commercials on television that bring me close. But I'm not trying to do that in this play. I'm actually hoping that this particular play will stimulate certain conversations, some about race, but actually more about truth and manipulation of truth, and what is appropriate and what is not appropriate in terms of our manipulation of truth. I mean, our whole lives depend on stories, which are manipulations of truths. All of our lives are dependent on stories which manipulate us and aren't necessarily true. George Washington did not chop down a cherry tree, even though we were taught that as kids. So there is an exploration of what's appropriate in terms of the manipulation of truth. But even more than that, what's interesting is that one of my guiding principles in playwriting is I want people to be entertained. I know it's a bad word, but I want people to step out of that theater with a renewed knowledge and interest in the characters that were on the stage, and also a feeling of, hey, that was worth my 2 hours or whatever. So I know that that's an odd thing for a playwright to say, but I do want the experience to be worthwhile to the audience. My name is Chuck Cummings. I'm the playwright of Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated. If you want to know more about my play, listen to this recording. Let me first mention that the play, Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated, yes, Annotated is part of the title. It's about an actual visit that Billie Holiday, the jazz singer, made to a photographer named Carl Van Vechten, who lived in Manhattan. This visit at Carl Van Vechten's Central Park West apartment happened in 1949. And I'm exploring not only what happened in terms of the fireworks between the two of them, the friction between the two of them, the night of the photo shoot at the apartment, but some greater truths. And this particular idea has probably been percolating at some level in my head for close to 20 years. Yeah, 20. He said 20, 20. Because I saw an art exhibit of the photographs of Carl Van Vechten a long time ago at a museum in Miami. And I was just struck by this documentation of people like Ella Fitzgerald and Paul Robeson and Billie Holiday and others. And that was basically the seed that eventually turned into Billie Sits for Carl. So I guess that's it's also a statement about how sometimes I write fast and sometimes I don't. Sometimes things just take a while before they really click. And then I really have to get it out. So basically, in the fall of 2021 was when the idea really came back to me again. And so it took me about 6 months to get the play together, 6-7 months. But that's what Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated is. It's basically a seed that started germinating 20 years ago. The main characters, as I mentioned before, are Billie Holiday and Carl Van Vechten, and they actually did meet on, I think it was March 23rd, 1949, for a photo shoot that lasted all night. In the real story, also there was the wife of Carl Van Vechten, Fania Marinoff. She is in this play. And also the assistant / occasional lover of Carl Van Vechten, Saul Maraber. He was also there that night. And there's also an additional character in this play, the playwright, who is manipulating what happens on this particular night. So the general story arc is that when Billie Holiday arrives, there are certain types of pictures that Carl Van Vechten wants to get from her. Specifically, one of the things that I found in my research was, and this is spoiler alert for anyone who's interested, it's just a reading, so there's no such thing as spoilers spoiling readings. But one of the things I found is that Carl Van Vechten, this married gay man, also sometimes liked to take photographs of women's breasts. And there are a couple of pictures, for example, of Carl Van Vechten doing topless photos of this old Broadway/movie star named Pearl Bailey, who was, very famous in the latter half of the 20th century. And so within the construct of the play, that's one of Carl's goals with Billie. Will he be able to get her to go that far? But of course, this is also the playwright speaking. I'm talking about the playwright in the play. So you can't necessarily believe what the playwright is manipulating these characters to do. But the overall arc is about this photo session and what will happen in this photo session. And if you're an artistic director somewhere and are interested in doing a full production of Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated, let me know. Hey, you can even contact me through my website. I wonder how you get to my website. So I would love to have a full production of this play. There are certain elements of the play, in fact, that won't be present during the reading. I negotiated with the Carl Van Vechten Foundation to actually use his photos in the play, but the reading is all about the words of the play. So although in a full production, there are many photos which are going to be displayed for dramatic reasons, but I fully encourage and fully hope for a full production at some point in time. Hi, my name is Chuck Cummings. I'm the playwright of Billie Sits for Carl, Annotated. See you at the theater.